During the election, you were Republicans saying that the old relationship that Canada has with the U.S. is over. You said that Donald Trump is trying to break us so he can own us. But now, just a couple weeks after the election, there's conversations, at least, about further integrating the Canadian military with the U.S. about the Golden Dome. What do you say to Canadians who voted for you based on your elbows up mentality with the Americans?
Well, first,
it's still completely unbelievable to me how you had an entire political party campaign on this whole like elbows up thing. And within weeks, within less than 14 days or less than 18 days later, after winning that election, everything that was promised, like the whole it's over with America as we know it, that doesn't even seem to be true. In fact, it seems to be going in the opposite way, that things are only going to get closer and closer with America, which, don't get me wrong, that's kind of cool in terms of our economic growth and how it benefits Canada. I'm pro that. According to CTV, Vancouver did a hit piece on me once upon a time and called me an American apologist and a Trump supporter. I like the fact that we're working with America, but that's not what people voted for. That's not what more than half the country voted for. But yet here it is, and it's happening. So we're going to be taking a look at that because Mark Carney breaks his silence on this Golden Dome, the Iron Dome that Canada and America are going to be jointly building, which is pretty freaking cool. So yeah, I hope you stick around for the full thing because there's a lot of really cool things in this video. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Starting off with kind of a weird story. Israel forces, the IDF, took some shots at Canadian personnel while on a diplomatic tour. Canada summons the Israeli ambassador over IDF warning shots near diplomatic tour with Canadian personnel. Obviously, that's not good. And even if it were liberal politicians, you can't be shooting at anyone Canadian. Like, that's just not okay. So the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, called the situation totally unacceptable and said that Canada expects an explanation of what happened. It's some of many things that are totally unacceptable that's going on in the region, Carney said in a press conference on Parliament Hill Wednesday. The Israeli military said Wednesday it regrets the inconvenience caused. What a weird thing to say. By warning shots it fired as diplomats toured the city in Jenin. Yeah, that's a weird freaking thing. I'm sorry about the inconvenience for shooting in your general direction when we shouldn't have. Yikes. Not a good look. Anita Anand, Liberal MP, who has taken the lead on this, says, I spoke with Canada's head of mission in Ramallah earlier today. I can confirm 4 of our personnel were part of the delegation in West Bank when the IDF fired shots in their vicinity. Relieved to know our team is safe. I have asked my officials to summon Israel's ambassador to convey Canada's serious concerns. We expect a full investigation and accountability. Now, obviously, multiple sides to a story, and it is technically a war zone. So there's likely 2 different things. One, maybe they were in an area that they shouldn't have been, or 2, miscommunication. But I'd love to know your guys' thoughts and comments down below about this. I feel like things are really, like, public support for Israel is really tanking lately. And when they do stuff like this, it obviously doesn't look good for them. But love to know your guys' opinions down below. Next up, we've got to talk about Canadian pension plan and how investments seize opportunity in Carney's call for nation building projects. Kind of interesting. CPP investment chief executive John Graham says that the fund has an appetite to continue growing in its Canadian assets. We're excited that it's going to lead to some pretty interesting domestic investment opportunities, Graham said in a recent interview. Carney won the federal election last month after the campaigning on a plan to promote internal trade barriers and build large projects that can bolster the country's economic resilience. We think that there may be the will to actually build some of these things, he said, referring to a big infrastructure projects. The fund totaled $714.4 billion in assets as of March 31st, up from $632 billion earlier this year. The increase included $59.8 billion in net income and $22.3 billion in net transfers from the Canadian pension plan. So as you can see, there seems to be a lot of different shifts going on in the country. There's the power shift, there's the money shift as well, which obviously is power, but in terms of like politics, we're now undergoing like a super weird thing that chances are if you're watching this, you weren't hoping for, and you certainly probably weren't expecting the Liberals to have this sweeping of a, of a victory, but then also the shift of money. A lot of money seems to be reallocating itself, and maybe Canada is going to get a big cash injection to complete some projects. I'm kind of doubtful about that, but again, maybe we're entering into a new era of politics where, as much as I hate to say it, what if the Liberals actually pull off some of this stuff? Obviously, I'd rather the Conservatives do it, but being pro-Canadian and just wanting our country to be fixed and healed, I'm just pro stuff getting done at this point. It could be my political fatigue, but I'd love to know how you guys feel about this. Now, speaking of fatigue, it seems like Canada Post is already anticipating not getting what they want, so they're trying to use pressure tactics in this strike that they are just about to head into. So Canada Post is pushing for a deal ahead of the strike deadline. I mean, yeah, obviously, nobody wants this strike to happen except Canada Post.
Good evening. Canada Post has put forward new offers to the union representing its workers as the clock ticks down to another potential postal worker strike. Canada Post also rejected a request by the union for 2 weeks to consider the new proposals, saying they don't want further delays. CTV's Krista Simpson joins us now with this afternoon's developments. Krista?
Well, Tony, 55,000 postal workers across the country could be on picket lines on Friday if a deal isn't reached. If that happens, this would be the second strike in 6 months. Today, Canada Post says it has put forward an offer to the urban bargaining unit and the rural and suburban unit that includes a 13.59% compounded wage increase over 4 years, 6 additional personal days, and better income replacement for short-term disability leaves. Canada Post is also looking to add a core of part-time workers to allow for 7 days a week delivery, but they're promising health and pension benefits and schedule guarantee hours for those workers. Canada Post is also looking at a limited implementation to start of dynamic routing, which would allow Canada Post to change routes daily to make more efficient use of workers' time. Now, the Canadian Union of Postal Workers asked for 2 weeks to go over these proposals, but Canada Post said no, saying a deal needs to be reached and quickly.
After this lengthy delay, this service disruptions from the strike last year, and everyone looking for certainty, our volumes are way down. Our employees are scared. Our customers are frustrated. They're looking for us to get a deal and to treat this with the urgency that it deserves. Therefore, pushing pause is in nobody's best interest. Let's hammer out a deal, get this done, and give everyone the certainty they're looking for.
Nothing has changed from day one other than that they actually gave an offer to us. And the fact that they don't want to wait another 2 weeks for us to evaluate it, to see if it's ratified by the membership. It's not going to be done tomorrow, but Canada.
Yeah, I think that Canada Post has really lost public opinion on this. It feels like they just keep doing these strikes and they keep pushing the pendulum further and further and further. And at some point, I mean, how much more of a beating are Canadians going to take over this Canadian postal service? It feels like it's dying and it's sinking the entire ship. So do we just cut it loose, or does it bring the ship down? I don't know, but I'm kind of passing that question off to you. How do you feel about Canada Post? Should we just stop all funding and let it either sink or swim? Love to know your guys' thoughts and comments down below. Now we're getting into Mark Carney's address earlier today to the country. He's finally broken his silence on many, many things, including the Golden Dome that Trump just voluntold Canada to be a part of, saying, hey, yeah, we haven't really spoken to your prime minister or your people about this, but America is building a dome and Canada's going to have to pay its fair share so that you guys can also have coverage. That's the price to pay when you, I guess, border the world's superpower. But I mean, I'm not totally upset about it. I think it's a great idea and we don't really have a good defense system or any defense system in Canada, and we certainly don't really have that strong of a military force. So having this is kind of our only option moving forward. But let's take a look here at Prime Minister Carney run in and have to step on a bit of a step stool to speak on the podium.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Bonjour. We have just concluded our first cabinet planning forum at Wilson House at Meech Lake. And while we were there as a team, we sat down and we discussed how we can best deliver the major changes that are needed to overcome the many challenges that Canada currently faces. In a more dangerous and divided world, geopolitical risks are rising, threatening our sovereignty. The global trading system, which has helped power Canada's prosperity for decades, is undergoing its biggest transformation since the fall of the Berlin Wall. At home, our long-standing weak productivity is making life less affordable for Canadian families. It's straining government finances and threatening to undermine the sustainability of vital social programs on which Canadians rely. So Canada's new government has an immense responsibility to address these challenges head on, with focus, new strategies, and determined execution. And that new approach animates the mandate letter that I shared with all members of our ministry at the end of our meeting. It reflects a unified mission. This one letter outlines the core priorities of Canada's new government, reflecting the mandate that Canadians have given to us. In particular, the government is charged to build the strongest economy in the G7, an economy that works for everyone. We're to bring down the cost of living for Canadian families, to keep our country secure and our communities safe.
Okay, those are great talking points that I think a lot of us can agree with. Phenomenal. In fact, both parties campaigned on that. Some parties campaign on that a little bit harder. The Conservatives have been talking about this very hard-hitting, facts for years. How are you going to bring down the cost of living? We've already heard from, high-hitting liberals that house prices are not going to be coming down. So what are you going to do to reduce the cost of a house? Are you going to build more? How is that not going to affect current housing costs? Because it's all about supply and demand. How are you going to bring down costs of groceries? Like, these are awesome slogans, and are not even slogans. They're just brochure highlights. But we need actual, real stuff happening. And the only thing I've really seen in terms of cost so far is the cost of gas. Fuel has skyrocketed. Have you guys noticed that? Why is nobody talking about that? Maybe people are, maybe they're not. I don't really know. But you had the carbon tax got paused, right? He removed the carbon tax in the middle of the election, and we saw like 30 cents go down right off gas, like instantly. It was like, whoa, that's kind of cool. And there was a lot of controversy and baggage that act carried, such as the fact that he didn't actually wipe out the carbon tax. He just paused it. And now we're seeing the unpause effect, where gas prices are higher than where they were before he did anything. So you're waving a magic wand to try to do things, but it's only getting worse so far. We want to see things get better. And if things do get better, I'll objectively say things got better. Whatever he did has made this thing better. I have no problem saying that. In fact, I'm dying to say that. I want nothing more than to say that. And I don't care which political party does it. But that's my duty as this, YouTube channel that I've created, that if I see something good, I point it out. If I see something bad, I point it out. And so far, it's just kind of been bad.
To develop a new economic and security relationship with the United States, and to build new partnerships with reliable allies around the world.
Like America?
Our team is already acting on this mandate with urgency and determination. This past weekend, I met with U.S. Vice President Vance in Rome, where I reiterated what workers and businesses on both sides of the border have long known that Canada and the United States are stronger when we work together. Minister LeBlanc is currently in Washington to continue negotiations with members of President Trump's cabinet. And Minister Champagne is meeting with his American counterpart as the minister leads the G7 finance ministers meeting in Banff.
Bro, Champagne already pledged $500 billion to help rebuild Ukraine when that money could be going to us. That's a lot of money. That could solve homelessness in like 3 provinces easily, or maybe the entire country. That's a lot of money, man. $500 billion, and it's going right to Ukraine. Great, man. I know they're at war and stuff, but must be nice. Never thought I'd say that. That's probably insensitive, but they're getting so much money from Canada, and we can't afford to do that.
The next few weeks and months will be crucial to catalyze the changes that Canadians deserve. This next Tuesday, May 27th, in the speech from the throne, His Majesty King Charles III will outline our government's plan to build Canada strong. On June 2nd, I will chair a major First Ministers meeting in Saskatoon to strengthen the partnerships that are needed to build one Canadian economy out of 13 and to catalyze the significant nation-building projects that will diversify and strengthen our economy. In the middle of June, I will host the G7 and other world leaders in Alberta to address global challenges ranging from energy security to the future of the new global commercial trading system.
So again, like, this isn't an emergency press conference, but it's a press conference to address the country, and it's just laying out the itinerary for stuff that's to come. What about stuff you've done? Talk about what you've done. We want to know what's already happened. Yeah, okay, great. Talk about things that are in motion, but people want to see results. We've apparently, I almost said we didn't vote. I didn't vote for this guy. Chances are you watching also didn't vote for this guy, but we as a country is probably what I meant to say. Voted this guy in to actually take action, right? Liberals, elbows up, right? So what action has been taking place right now? That's what we want to know.
The ambassador also said that there haven't been formal talks on the Golden Dome. Should Canada take part in that project, and how much would you be willing to spend on that?
Okay, well, I'm not going to put a price tag on the second part of your question. I think I'll say the following about the situation with air defense or ballistic missile defense, intercontinental ballistic missile defense, broader defense against, including potential missiles that in the not too distant future could come from space. I mean, these are some of the threats that our nation faces.
We take
those threats seriously. We take our responsibilities as a government seriously, as I just said. It's one of the reasons why we made the commitment back in March for the over-the-horizon radar, the first phase of the over-horizon radar system, and that was an independent decision that we took. We are conscious that we have an ability, if we so choose, to complete the Golden Dome with investments and partnership. And it's something that we are looking at and something that has been discussed at a high level, but I'm not sure one negotiates on this. These are military decisions that have been taken in that context.
If he says one more, I'm going to lose it. This guy, you are the prime minister. Learn how to talk and learn how to lead, for crying out loud, man. The start of your speech was okay because you're reading off a paper and a script. Now that you're put on the place and asked questions by reporters, your default answer is and You're talking about a massive vulnerability that this country has, that this continent has. We don't have a proper air defense system. Partly because we haven't really needed to do that, because we have a massive body of water on both sides that can protect us. Now, if we were in the Middle East, yeah, you'd be bordering a whole bunch of other countries that have missiles that can shoot 500 miles or 1,000 miles. That's a direct threat. Of course, there's a need for that many, many years ago. But now that missile technology, hypersonic missiles are a thing, and it's not just a missile that shoots up, 2 kilometers into the air and then skyrockets, plateaus, and comes bombing down. The missile technology now is what Carney did just mention. They go up into space, they travel around the globe, and then they come back down. So they just orbit. For how long? That depends on the advancement of technology. Can missiles just be stored in space and shot from satellites? Yeah, probably. Right? So we're getting into a whole new era of military technology. And a missile defense system is needed. Like yesterday. Yesterday. What we also need to be looking towards in the near future is not just a missile defense system of missiles, but also laser technology, so that these lasers, these high-powered lasers, can shoot this laser beam. Sounds sci-fi, but I mean, it's kind of the future, and it shoots at oncoming rockets, and it heats up the rockets that are coming into the atmosphere, into our aerospace, and it blows them up because of the laser technology. That's kind of like next level. We should be talking about that as well. Let's see if he actually brings it up.
And we will evaluate it accordingly. Thank you.
Next question.
I'm Mr. Carney, McKenzie Gray, Global News. During the election, you heard Republicans saying that the old relationship that Canada has with the U.S. is over. You said that Donald Trump is trying to break us so he can own us. But now, just a couple weeks after the election, there's conversations, at least, about further integrating the Canadian military with the U.S. about the Golden Dome. What do you say to Canadians who voted for you based on your elbows up mentality with the Americans?
Well, first, one of the reasons why...
Oh no, that's McKenzie Gray from Global, dude. That's supposed to be a Carney shill. Even the Carney shills are going, what happened, elbows up, man? What happened, elbows up? Your fans voted you in to be against against America, against Trump specifically. And now you're buddy with Trump. Uh-oh, he's trying to play the field and he's getting caught.
Why we're having more constructive discussions with the Americans is because we are demonstrating our ability that we have choices. We have choices economically. We have choices with respect to our defense. I'll give you several examples to back that up. Maybe I'll step away from the economics. Mr. Gray, you've probably heard enough of me on that, so I will talk about defense for a moment. With respect to the F-35, it was raised a moment ago. We have alternatives for the F-35 for the back end of that. European alternatives that we could pursue. We have to weigh them in the best interests of Canada. That's how we will evaluate. With respect to broader defense, whether it's air, sea, land, cyber, we have other partnerships that we can strike. And one of the things, as you will have heard, but I'll repeat, that we have been discussing with our European partners is becoming a full partner of Rearm Europe, Safe Europe, different acronyms for a major relationship that we can have that gives us diversification, new partners, new options, better value for money, potentially, more domestic Canadian economic benefits. So all of that exists in parallel to potential opportunities with the U.S. And the way I would characterize the change in the relationship, and I stood in this room and made those comments the first time, and I'm very clear, and I absolutely repeat them today, which is we had for almost half a century, we as Canada, a relationship with the Americans which were a steady process of deepening integration in economics. We went from free trade deal through to CUSMA, deepening integration in military aspects. And that process of deepening integration is over. We are in a position now where we cooperate when necessary.
Deepening cooperation is over, folks. That's why when Daddy Trump says Canada's going to be a part of the Golden Dome and they're going to pay hundreds of billions of dollars, Canada's response is, Yeah, well, we don't have to do this, but we're gonna do it. Not because you said it or it's your idea, but because we just decided that, yeah, this is something that we are deepening our cooperation with. What? I mean, look, I'm all for it. We should be working hand in hand with America, the world superpower. Yeah, baby. You want oil? You want discounted oil? Take it. Well, don't take it, but give us a little bit of money, please. We're a sovereign country. Yeah, sure. But come on, work with us. Come on, please work with us. We should be thankful that we're bordering America by land and that we have good, not great, but good relations with them. But this guy is pandering. He's pandering to liberals. He's not a progressive liberal. Liberals voted for the second Trudeau. They didn't get him. They got this guy who's freaking a used car snake oil salesman. He will say what you want to hear when you want to hear it. He doesn't stand for anything, which means he will fall for everything. So long as his company gets money, gets paid, so long as he maintains a form of power, he will say whatever he needs to say to maintain that position. We are deepening our relationships with him. Like, what the heck is this guy even going on about, dude?
But not necessarily cooperate. So we have other options for that cooperation. We are pursuing those other options. You will see a very different set of partnerships, security and economic, going forward. But to be absolutely clear, when it is in Canada's interest, first best interest, to cooperate with the Americans, to strike deals with the Americans, relationships, and particularly in examples like ballistic missile defense.
If you voted for Carney, you're half retarded. I don't know how else to say it. You're half retarded. Look, I'm all for working with America, but he's saying Canada doesn't and will not work under the American regime. We are a sovereign country. Our relationship with them is over as we know it. We only say yes to things that we want to say yes to, and we won't fall to pressure tactics. Now, luckily, we want to say yes to this thing. It's not under pressure, though. Sovereign country, right? Elbows up. Right? Give me a break, dude. Who's listening to this going, that's a great leader? He's absolutely right. He just said literal hypocrisy in the same breath of air. Unless I'm half retarded, which is also a possibility, I just heard double speak. This guy's going far to the left and then back to the right, or trying to. All within the same breath of air. No ums in between, unfortunately. We don't stand with America anymore, but in this case we do. Not because we have to, because we want to. Even though I wasn't aware about the Golden Dome until now. I mean, that sounds like you kind of have to go through with it, buddy. And we're going to have to pay for it, which again, I'm 2 thumbs up, elbows down, all for this. But are the liberals really going to be falling for this? I mean, yikes. I would hate to be a liberal supporter right now. That's the end of the video. That's the end of the video. Love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Iron Dome. No, Golden Dome. Here we go. Not because we have to, but because we want to. What's the name of the project again? I'm hearing it for the first time right now. Yeah, that one. Yeah, we're doing that not because we have to, right? But because we want to.